Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place we discuss all things Usmnt y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian. Joining me once again my co-host Cayo. Adrian, what's good, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Kind of a short week for me. I'll be on travel shortly tomorrow, but just getting ready here, putting out some content for the fam, for the PPG fam.
Yeah, short and busy week for me as well. Also traveling towards the end of the week, so it'll be a crazy week for us. But yeah, man, we're continuing the hype here. Mauricio Pochettino, still yet to sign as of today, the recording of this video, Monday, August 19th. As we said before in a previous video, the whole situation with Chelsea, his contract still kind of being not filled yet, not completely paid, so he's still under contract technically, which prevents him from signing with the Usmnt as of this date. Until that contract issue is resolved, he won't be announced. So this episode, man, we're gonna be kind of discussing, a lot of talk has been going on since Pochettino's, arrival. Well, not arrival yet, but announcement. Not official announcement, but Fabrizio Romano, all these announcements have pretty much leaked us the news. But many are saying that it's a problem or a cause for concern that Pochettino does not really know the MLS or the USMNT system, the hierarchy, the ins and outs of the federation. His lack of familiarity with MLS and USMNT, is a concern for some. Adrian, before I give my opinion, let me hear what you want to say on this. What are your thoughts on this, man?
I think this is a funny question to begin with, dude. I think people who are questioning if it's a big problem that Pochettino doesn't really know or has a background knowledge on MLS and the USSF are people who, I don't know, man. For the lack of another word, I don't think they know anything about soccer or footballing to begin with. But that's just my opinion. Now, being more reserved and catering to those who have a valid concern, I think this is a perhaps a somewhat of a okay concern. I don't think it's a big concern. I honestly don't think it's an issue, plain and simple. For a few reasons. The biggest one being that for all this time, a lot of the USMNT fans and people surrounding the USMNT have asked the USMNT coach to, pretty much remove himself from the MLS, link, right? We don't really enjoy, or we don't really want to see a lot of MLS players on the USMNT, given the fact that you have an extensive pool of European-based players that you can actually grab from. So the likes of Arolong, Kelly Costa, Roldan, all of those players who we all know can definitely make up the B team or C team, shouldn't be called up for the A team, right? In this case, so I think for that side of the house at the USMNT fan base, right, this is not a concern. Is it a concern because perhaps this paints the picture that Pochettino doesn't really understand in the idiosyncrasy of the USMNT player? I am not too sure, because if you look at you can tell me if I'm wrong, but for the most part, a lot of these young players had either been brought up through the European system, or they haven't even played at MLS. So why is it important that he knows MLS?
Yeah, I'm with you. I see that it is not really a negative cause for concern. I'm with you that on the flip side of that, I actually see it as a refreshing, as a positive, that he's not controlled by the USSF, that he's not having, his decisions, and well, at least we hope that his decisions aren't being influenced by Don Garber, MLS, or USSF, that, he's not part of that good boys club in the USSF. He's an outsider. He'll do things his way. And, I wonder if this, side topic here, but I wonder if this is going to get rid of the January Camp Cupcake, or if he'll use that as a way to bring European guys in and not have it be a wasteful camp, because Pochettino is obviously brought in on a 2-year term. He has one goal in his mind. USSF has one goal on their mind: do a successful World Cup at home. So he doesn't have the time to learn all the idiosyncrasies, all the things that go on with MLS. He's going to use the established players that he has, the ones that we've grown to see with Triple G for the most part, right? The A team. And he doesn't have time to develop a lot more new talent. And I'm not saying that he won't, because we know how good Pochettino is at developing young talent and bringing in young talent. But I think a lot of that is going to be talent that was starting to already establish itself, young talent, and he's gonna lean heavily, like I'm saying, on the established talent, at least for the first year, I think. So I don't think it's a harmful thing that he does not know MLS to that extent. He'll rely heavily, I think, on his scouts, on his assistants to give him
Exactly.
knowledge and the information he needs. If somebody's performing fantastic in the MLS, I'm sure he'll take note of it and perhaps give those people opportunities. But yeah, the fact that he doesn't have any ties, I don't think is going to be a worry. I think his pedigree far outweighs any negativity of not knowing the system in the United
Yeah.
States. So those people can calm down.
I mean, to add to your point, dude, I think it's very valid when you mentioned that he has, a staff, right? I mean, come on, guys. Let's not forget that at this level of the game, the coaching staff, it's pretty much more extensive than when it used to be, back in the 90s, back in the 80s and early 2000s. Nowadays, a coach comes in with like at least 5 or 6, even 10, 10 different staff members who help him do all the scouting, do all the data analysis, do all the player recognition, do all the, you know information, uh, I guess, background and everything. Like, he must have someone within his team who's gonna come up and give him like a freaking report or something that says, "Hey, man, this is the most relevant thing that you need to know about MLS. This is the top 10 things that you need to be aware of when looking at the USSF history or understanding the USMNT mentality, right?" So it just strikes me very odd to see these kind of discussions around with pundits and people online, where it's like, I'm right there with you. This should not be an issue whatsoever.
Yeah, I guess people always find a reason to complain. This kind of ties in on the second point of this video that we wanted to bring up. He is not going to have the knowledge of MLS, at least starting, of USSF.
Hmm.
A lot of people are saying, it hasn't been confirmed, but they're saying that he's not going to be staying and living at the Atlanta new USMNT base, that he's going to be remaining in Europe. Which, if that's the case, I think that benefits Pochettino because, of the 23 A team slash, bench players that the US starts, the 23 players, 21 of them are European based. So helping, because of this being such a short term deal, such a short term, hey, we got 2 years, less than 2 years to get you to perform well. I think it helps that he's going to be out there in Europe where his key stars are playing and his key figures are playing, so that he can watch them day in day out and not have to scout them all the way from Atlanta, just so he can be close to the home base of the U.S. Federation. What I've seen people say negative about that is that he's a huge name, he could be used to grow the game here in the United States, do interviews, do blah blah blah. But at this time, grow the game by doing well in the World Cup.
Yeah, dude. Exactly. I think that the USMNT is at that stage right now where the fan base is growing, people are getting more interested in the sport, right? And I think having the World Cup will just intrinsically make the people be more aware of the sport and want to go and see the team and whatnot. So wasting his time, coming down here doing freaking interviews with every other broadcast network or trying to bolster MLS, I think this is another good decision by Pochettino if he stays or if he remains as or having Europe as his home base, because again, we're trying to make the split between the USSF and MLS, and this could be the best excuse for the like of mattcrocker and company to start, building that rift between. And I don't want the word rift that has a negative connotation to it, but I just making like this gap or difference between what the USSF does versus the MLS, right? Because both of them have very different goals in mind. Where the USSF should be focusing on developing the USMNT and making the team stronger on an international scenario, whereas the MLS should only worry about their clubs. And so I can see why the concern being like, well, if Pochettino is not here and is not helping USSF and MLS strengthen that relationship, then perhaps the MLS owners or teams might turn their back on the developing talent and whatnot. But I don't really see it. I really don't think that they will be that dumb to stop producing young talent and shipping them out to Europe and missing on all those huge gains that they can possibly make, right? Um, just to add to your specific comment of being close to those star players, to those key players, in addition to being close, he also has a plethora of knowledge on by being coach on 3 of the top 5 leagues in Europe, right? So he not only understands the intensity of each league, but he can also use that time to maybe have a discussion with the coaches of each of these players, right? And find a way to make sure that the interest of the USMNT is at the forefront. Sorry, for the club coaches, right?
Yeah, that how to make sure those coaches get the best of those USMNT players, right? So that they're not just rotting on the bench or using them incorrectly. like today for Juventus, Tim Weah scored a really good goal. First time playing on the wing in forever for them, and he scored his first Serie A goal like in his second season finally, right? So you know, you making sure that these players are utilized to their best, advantage and their best way possible is going to be something that Pochettino can do. Like you said, he's coached three out of the five biggest leagues there. I'm sure he has connections to be able to help out those
Yeah.
USMNT.
Yeah.
Even if one's stuck like Gio Reyna or something that needs a move, I'm sure he can guide those guys to the right direction, give them give them not clues, but where to go, give them advice. So I think that's a big plus in having him there.
Do you know if Jurgen Klinsmann was living in the States when he was a coach?
He was.
He was.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I guess this is the first time that perhaps the USMNT is dealing with someone who might not be willing to play their game, right? And maybe that's why they're, maybe people are expressing concerns or whatever, or the la prensa amiga, as we like to call it in Mexico, is making their machine sound and maybe cast some doubt in Pochettino. But I don't know, man. I think that I would like to say that the vast majority of the USMNT will side with us, saying like these are not concerns. This shouldn't be a point of contention. This shouldn't be in people's mind or making or casting doubts as to if Pochettino can have a good impact on the USMNT.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think most USMNT fans want, after that disastrous summer with the Olympics and the Copa America, they want to see results at the World Cup. And most fans are excited for this hire. And that'll be bringing us to our third point. Most fans are excited for this hire. What happens, man, if something goes wrong? No one's saying anything that's going wrong. No one's released any information. What happens if something goes wrong and this doesn't end up happening with Pochettino because he can't get out of that contract or that contract stalls or something, some legal thing? Maybe Pochettino's been waiting too long before this happens and he backs out. Right now is saying that he won't take charge of the USMNT until that match in Guadalajara, that in September they're going to have an interim coach. So what happens if this whole deal goes sour and goes south and, Pochettino ends up not being, hired? I mean, who are coaches with similar profiles that can take over? Or, do you think USMNT says, oh, we tried, let's just get an MLS guy?
Well, that is a great question. I think, first of all, if everything goes down and nothing happens with Pochettino in the USSF doesn't sign him, right? I think it will be a huge blow for mattcrocker and his tenure. Having the failure of bringing back Greg Berhalter when they had the chance to cut him loose was a wrong decision. And I think he needs to make sure that this one stays with him because it's going to be his first win. Whatever happens with Pochettino, if he does well or not, it's not mattcrocker's fault. He did his job on finding a big name for the team, right? But secondly, I think the USMNT would definitely go into panic mode, but they shouldn't. We had a video discussing other potentials coaches for the USMNT that we think are within reason and then will be a good fit for the not only for these remaining 2 years of the World Cup timeline, but also maybe for the near future or the not so near future, right? So you also definitely check it out. But we're not going to discuss all of those names. I think if we are realistic about it and everything goes down, and we have to find someone with a similar profile like Pochettino, the one name that comes to my mind right now is Roberto Martinez. I think he's a similar profile of a coach like Pochettino in the sense that he has coached on top leagues in Europe. He's European based, has international experience that Pochettino doesn't have. Right, it's still relevant in the international coaching scenario. Maybe not as breathtaking or interesting as Pochettino, right? In terms of strategy, I feel like Pochettino is a little bit more contemporary than Roberto Martinez. But what do I know? But I think Roberto Martinez will be a similar approach as Pochettino.
Yeah, and another one that, apparently talks went very well when they were having them with him a month ago, who might sign for Nigeria. But Hervé Renard, he's without a contract right now. His final contract being with the French women's national team after the Olympics. That ended, so his contract is over. He is not necessarily a long-term solution. He is one that you get to, bring on and, calm down the storm and lead this team to the World Cup. He's won a couple AFCON Nations Cups, so he knows how to win on the international stage. He's coached a lot of international teams, has a lot of experience, has coached in the club level. He would be another ideal choice if you're not able to get Pochettino.
Yeah.
Though, like I said, he would only be a 2-year max, more or less. Pochettino, I think a lot of people have hopes that he'll lead the USMNT to the World Cup, do decent or do well, and then he'll be able to lead them to 2030 after having them for a full cycle and developing those players and helping develop. That's when he'll bring in more youth, I feel. But yeah, those two coaches are definitely coaches that kind of fit the bill, fit the Pochettino bill. So in case that does not end up happening, but let us know if you think any other coaches, if Pochettino is somehow that miracle doesn't happen,
Fingers
who would
crossed.
you like to see? Yeah. Yeah, man, as we wrap up this episode, bro, where can listeners find us, dude?
They can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Instagram and TikTok. We post memes, latest news, and shorts of our episodes.
Yeah, be sure to follow us and let us know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on Pochettino? If he does indeed end up, living and staying in Europe, do you think that's beneficial for the Usmnt? Do you think it's negative? And what do you think of having an outsider of the Ussf Federation / MLS, association, being being head coach? Adrian and I, obviously think this is a positive for the Usmnt, but let us know
Yeah.
your comments below. Yeah, man, a good episode. See you next one, bro.
Take it easy, friend.